and
little weird,
I mean, honestly, I like LA more. I mean, not LA. I like Vegas more. Why did I say that backwards? No, I like Vegas way more than I like LA.
We're about to start a debate real quick.
But I mean, it's it's personal. Everything's personal preference. That's what it is.
Well, either way, we got bans up on the board. Let's chat about those. The bans have actually been identical for our first two maps.
Our entire production crew is offended right now.
It's not just production. The chat, it's going to get crazy if we go deeper in this topic.
Wait,
so.
I mean, they can all just make fun of me. I'm from Iowa. Like, what do you want from me, man? I live next to corn for 15 years of my life. Like, a desert's probably going to feel more like, oh.
So Thatcher will get knocked out. Once again, an expected ban here. But Lion, again, another one that is not going to be in line with what we've been seeing for the previous two maps, but does make perfect sense considering it's going to be Coastline.
Yes, sir.
This is a map where we've seen a whole bunch of Lion play over the past pretty much a year now. So
might be his most annoying map, to be honest.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a mainstay when it comes to this map, so it's actually a fairly smart ban between that and, say, like a Nomad
It's literally just the Lion ban.
Yep.
That's it. Everything else is the same. Yeah, but that's fair enough. I mean, this map overall plays into the favor of everything on the board right now. So, I mean, the Lion ban is the most paramount one. That's the one that I want to see every single time that you see Coastline, because he's just so influential when he's able to just sit on the top of the building with the 417 and just bear down on people, whilst also having those EE1Ds to assist his team throughout the map while they're clearing. So for now, for Oxygen, they're going to have to look to other means to do that, and that's going to go towards laxing with this. Yana, Foxe, also having the Rotero drones initially, but he'll switch over to Maverick. Now, this is where the conversation becomes very interesting. He could be doing this for two reasons. Number one, the frag grenades. Number two, the hard breach. But the thing about the hard breach is you don't necessarily need it when it comes to Coastline. So we'll see the way in which they want to abuse this, but especially when it comes to this kitchen site, I don't see them getting too much traction out of that torch.
Let's see here now how the initial defense will go for the Soniqs, as they're going to start things out inside of kitchen and service. On top of that, one, a very interesting operator pick. For those of you who've been watching the NAL, it's not going to be too much of a surprise for you. Grixer specifically going on to the Oryx. A lot of hatches on this map, and a lot of emphasis on rotational play of roamers. So considering that, Oryx is going to be actually a pretty useful choice for this map due to mainly his ability to hop up and down the hatches, giving him plenty more options of traversal for trying to get up and down through these floors compared to everybody else on the map.
Yes, indeed. Lots of firepower being brought on both ends as well. Soniqs on one SAS operator, everyone else with SMGs in hand, and a willingness to take the fight to Oxygen towards the upstairs especially. It's going to be quite the big deal to be able to hold on to this for a time and hopefully get some frags in that direction as well. Rexon will be playing currently inside of office. There's currently Yaga, don't put your face there. Rexon has been so nasty with these shoulder peeks thus far. It's the second one inside of the series that's been on cam, so you know it's happening more than just those two. Oxygen already starting things off on the back foot.
That's going to be the Finca gone now as well, so no adrenal surges to be used on this execute Rexon. All right, he's not going to do it again now, or is he?
I'm so terrified for this man outside.
I think he's going to do it. Hold on.
Oxygen is sweating bullets.
Okay, no,
Rexon's going to get across, though.
He makes the smart choice here. Waits for kind of a moment of opportunity. He's going to go to a safer corner. Still looks like he's going to try and hold the corner itself and play somewhat into the defense on this room here. But Kano, as you can see, does not want to mess with that right now. He's rotating away now. The situation has seemingly been contained, and Vertical as well going to get a little bit of that swing. It looks like Yeti wants to try and take some notes from Rexon there. See if he can influence it into his playstyle a little.
Oh, Foxe, you sly dog. Working his way in through service, and I don't believe there's a single soul that knows he's in this space right now, but that's going to give up where Super is, right on the other side of this reinforcement, and oh no! The hologram's going to throw off Foxe for just a split second as it tries to push it in front of him, but Super will simply swing out and remove the head of Foxe, and now Oxygen in the lines of losing this round early. 42 bodies down, and some very serious damage coming from that frag grenade that'll take Super down to 1 HP.
Super is a lucky star watching him in this round here, as not only does he find that beautiful headshot, but the nade somehow doesn't fully take him down, as you can see, leaving him with just a sliver of HP to use throughout the rest of this round here. Grixer continuing to play into a front desk position here. We are going to see the Gemini walk past him. He realizes it's the Gemini and just is going to quickly turn tail and run away, letting it get all the free info, because Kanzan is also here to support. He can only go 1-for-1, and the other issue is going to be Rexon down below, but Rexon still comes out on top. Him and Super now are working with 5 HP or less here, but that doesn't matter much. Vertical's the only player left, and now he's got that same HP, but it won't stay that way for long. Yeti shuts it out with the last kill coming in for the Soniqs as they take the first round quite confidently in their favor.
There's just so many Soniqs bodies on that bottom floor, you know, especially going into the later half of that round. We saw them initially starting upstairs, but the take that we saw from Oxygen wasn't necessarily pushing them in that direction. They were really looking to go direct, especially with Service, you know, kind of being a play for Oxygen there. But that's where actually things started to go wrong. That pick from Foxe happens, and all of a sudden Super stands up even taller than he was before and able to even assist in other means. Oxygen losing 2 bodies very early. And, well, there's not really much you're going to get done in that situation, especially when Soniqs are able to then regain control of the entire bottom floor.
They're going to double down on the first floor holds here by going towards the double bar hold now, and this will obviously lead into some emphasis on the upstairs hold as well, much more differently than we saw things get played out on the Soniqs in the previous slate, where there was almost entirely just the emphasis on the first floor hold. This time, things will more than likely need to be extended up, at least over towards the hookah rooms, due to the top-down angles that can very easily be established by OXG, if Soniqs should choose to ignore that for some strange reason.
Surprisingly enough, we have not seen the Thunderbird that we've normally seen from the Soniqs throughout most of the year, at least from when she did end up getting put into competitive play on their coastline. We usually see her around this vase position here, but not to be the case here, especially on this site as well, where we've seen it down low. But despite that, Soniqs still with a solid opener and just favoring other utility, especially with Grixer on the alibi. This is something that we've seen starting to come into more teams' lexicons across the board just because of the MX4 getting that buff, and honestly it being just one of the most solid SMGs in the entire game. Great rate of fire, and that's usually king when it comes to Rainbow Six.
So, the pressure continues to broil in from Oxygen and get closer and closer towards that site. Some of the inner workings of Soniqs' strategy are going to need to be tested here. Most notably, this player extended out over towards the service doorway. Yeti, who has been spotted out, I do believe, by a very well-positioned drone. Very much ready for this type of aggressive play. If he tries to swing in toward the wall, the drone spot at the bottom of the stairs and very nicely shot out by Yeti, but still, once again, like I said before, Intel kind of working against him right now as he tries to play into a corner position, and again, does spot out the play through the drone hole here, but doesn't really have an angle from his side of it to be able to shoot out his opponent. Things will continue to kind of stall out there for the foreseeable future as a result of both teams having equal positioning here. Yeti, though, seems to have quite a few players trying to barrel down on him, so maybe he will be pressed out of this position sooner rather than later.
Yeti's seemingly ready for it, though, is worried too much about the pressure on around him. Cool as a cucumber, currently sitting underneath the window inside of Service. It's possible frag grenades to come in here, as well as Vertical taking a small amount of heat upstairs, but it's more or less the timer right now that is fighting against OXG. They've gotten some semblance of map control, but they haven't been able to actually enter inside of Service, but that will start now with Kino spearheading this with the F2. Kansan will be able to take down Yaga. That's a big pick onto the Finka as Yeti's working his way back towards Bathroom, but Kansan and Grixer both get dusted so quickly here. It's a 4 versus 3 now as Rexon's inside of security. Case is outside of office right now, so Oxygen still have an open playbook as to where they want to go with this. No true commitment here, but they've at least been able to trade out Yogg for 2.
Over a minute to play this out as well here, so plenty of time for Oxygen to think about how to handle this, especially with the player advantage they currently have. There's some strange positions from Soniqs they're going to have to eventually outwit here, though. Most notably, Yeti sitting in the open courtyard here, so the Gemini is going to walk past and see Rexon instead, as he'll actually take that Gemini down. Rexon is the one actually trying to do the target hunting right now, moving around, trying to draw all this attention away as the Oxygen members set up for their execute. Yeti just has the cutoff from the inside of Kitchen primarily here, should we see a swing through that direction and try to get out towards the Sunrise Bar, and that is more than likely what is going to happen here. Kino, you can see at the door, ready to take down Super, but Yeti ready to trade as well as he takes him out pretty much instantaneously. The swing still comes into the site. Rexon will try to assist from up on top, but Yeti just cerebral right now. Reads right into Laxing's flank, coming in through barrels, and shuts that one down to bring us down to even numbers at a 2v2. Drone pre-placed for Yeti, but still, as he moves in, they seem to have some intel devices themselves. The drop down, oh no, nearly leads to a team kill here. Yeti needs to be careful, but Rexon's going to help out now as he takes down the planter sitting in the corner, or rather the player holding the pool door, leaving only Foxe alive, hiding behind the chassis as Rexon takes that one out as well. A beautiful retake from the Soniqs as they claim a second round.
Yeti is just an assassin in the moment. I mean, so many beautiful shots coming from him, and you can see the hype, just the smile on Xander's face. He deserved all of that right there. He was truly the only thing that stood in the way of Oxygen getting that round. Time and time again, able to read through what Oxygen's game plan was and shut it all down in the end. And so with Rexon, Actually ended up getting that last kill. Now for the Sonics, they're up 2 rounds. And not only that, 2 rounds on the defensive side of Coastline, John. It's a 2-0. We don't see that happen very often as the offensive side is so unbelievably favored here.
With Yeti being kind of activated, as it seems, especially after that last round's play, that means even more firepower has been added to the overall Sonics roster. You've got Yeti, you've got Rexen to contend with these insane one-tap peaks. You've got, again, Kansan doing some similar stuff, and that's on top of Grixer also being able to make plays if needed. The only one that you can't necessarily rely on for that type of stuff, at least off of the 2 rounds we've seen played so far, is Super. But even in this series, we've seen moments of brilliance from Super, most notably his ability to catch members of Oxygen not watching flanks or possibly direct retake angles like we saw with that triple kill that he got over on the inside of Cash towards the end of our previous map. And that's not even everything. There was another round where he pulled up a very similar play, albeit to much less success, but still the same overall effectiveness by kind of rushing and sneaking in a kill or two and then getting traded out.
Okay, so what is the answer here for Oxygen? Personally, it feels as though the map control is just never in their favor in the moment. We don't really see them clearing out space, especially on the top floor. You know, there's just not really an abuse of the overall map in the way that, you know, Coastline is presented to the offensive side, which is usually abusing that top floor and trying to clear things out, get it to that congested moment where the Sonics really don't have that many options inside of the site to sit, and then try and hit that that execute. You know, either that or really start looking for those picks as well, because as long as you're limiting in that factor of overall map control, the defense isn't going to be able to rotate in the way that they want to, and the way that we've seen the Sonics do thus far. And well, it seems like it's going to continue on, at least for Laxing, 0-3 after not the best clubhouse in the world for him, but doesn't seem like Coastline's going to be too big of a change.
Oh, Yeti, seeing that someone was near him, but
the Spidey repel.
Yeah, the wrong read on where that pressure was coming from, unfortunately, as we see that Hatch get over to behind him. I think he panically tries to run down the stairs, but it's far too late as a quick exchange is picked up here by the members of Oxygen against Yeti to bring it down to a 4v4. Also removing was a very dangerous component of at least the previous round from play here. But like I said, you got 3 other members of this team that we could very easily see the same type of proficiency come out from Kansan.
Oh, Kansan.
Possibly going to directly challenge as he needs to be careful to repel on big window. He's watching for it, but instead it's going to be the swing from Billiards first here. Tries to get a second kill and nearly finds it. Also, Rexen so low. The fights for Oxygen going much more handily into their favor this time as they catch on to the aggressive play and are looking to punish it at every single avenue. Only by double peeking most of these. Grix are now caught out as well, just leaving Rexen and Super in the play for the dying minute and a half that remains. And never mind, Rexen decked by Yaga on another repeak. It's all up to Super now.
All to Super, and they know exactly where he is as well. Inside of VIP, Yaga's going to hold this cross. He'd like to lean out more towards door just to cover that and make sure Super can't get any direction over towards the guitar, but seems like Super's actually been able to adopt the angle. Biggest thing is, though, Oxygen's inside of the belly of the beast. They're inside sight, and it's an oversight from the Sonics. That round just not going their way. Oxygen able to nip a lot in the bud there. The biggest thing would be those picks that they got over towards Pink as well as Billiards that really limited Grixer. He's not allowed to leave that space anymore. He's stuck inside of Hookah because all of his saving graces are off the board. He's stuck there, and there's not really anything he can do. He tries to reset his laser gate, but that's really all for naught at the end of the day. Oxygen get their very first round off some very solid picks.
Kitchen and Service is going to be up next here for the Sonics as they lose on the tertiary site, but through that we'll be able to unlock the sites they've already had very confident wins on earlier on in this half. It's up to Oxygen to adjust from those strategies now, as we somewhat have already seen on that previous round. Like I said, having a much better track record for catching those more aggressive swings for the Sonics that time compared to the previous 2 rounds where those members of the Sonics pretty much had free picks or free capability to at least attempt to get those picks in the opening minute or 2 of the round due to a very small amount of map control being picked up by Oxygen in those opening 2 rounds. Going to be a bit more restricted this time if Oxygen continues to play properly, as we saw just back on round number 3. So we'll have to wait and see which one we will get, and more importantly, how the Sonics will respond to this newly renewed Oxygen attack.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
Well, finally, get out of the prep phase. arguably the most boring part of Rainbow Six, and we get into the action phase where all of the action happens, the thing that everyone cares about, where we get to see who is better in the moment. And as of right now, it's kind of up in the air. Oxygen with some very serious adjustments in these last couple of moments that have left Soniqs kind of gobsmacked in a certain sense, but doesn't mean they're going to be slowing down at all. If anything, it seems like the aggression has built up. Actually, Rexen with a lot of pre-fire, same as Yeti out towards Sunrise, but Oxygen not too concerned with it at the end of the day. Kino will be working with the off-this rotate here, just trying to make sure no one can get back in towards the blue bar, keeping these two separated over towards the west side of the building. Should make things a little bit more palatable for Oxygen.
He continuing to kind of dance
he was
around
tapping away at that.
Laxing finally on the board here as he's able to isolate out the position of Grixer, taking him down. Yeti, you're going to see, two players pushing against him, but now he's got the support. Super strikes, but Yeti falls as Foxe gets the trade for Oxygen, and they stay in charge. Rexen as well, heavily injured now at about a third of his remaining HP after being hit, I believe, by a nade.
For Oxygen. It's a moment here. Oh, very close, but oh my goodness, how does that even happen? Kansan gets away. He practically just steals it out from Oxygen here. He'll tie things up. And into a 3 versus 3, just pulled the rug out from under him right there. That initial shot hits him right in the neck. Just not high enough to achieve that headshot. Unfortunate for the Oxygen member, but saving grace for Soniqs. We'll definitely be happy about going forward, especially if they pick up this round. The positioning base right now is definitely in favor of the Soniqs, with Rexen all the way upstairs right now, looking to see if it could possibly make a play through this aquarium hatch, and rubbing onto that arm as well, just being very patient with what he's doing in the moment. You know, got to get those good stretches, those gamer stretches in every once in a while, John. Got to make sure everything's in the proper spot. But for Kansan and Super, the proper spot's already been selected. They'll sit inside of beer for the time being and await Oxygen's presence inside of the site.
Foxe continuing to look for any sort of entry opportunity, but the Soniqs have gone fully passive here as we enter. Well, actually, I'm not going to say that just yet. Not fully passive, especially now looking at Rexen's POV. Rexen's looking to make a Batman of himself here over the next few moments, possibly with a possible leap down to save the day, as his other two teammates will defend the site itself. Foxe realizes that things are actually pretty much open for the taking inside of the site, but no, Yaga is not allowed forward. Super finds a second pick inside of this round here, taking him down and giving the members of the Soniqs the player advantage. Keep in mind, though, all three of the remaining members of the Soniqs are heavily injured. It's the opposite for Oxygen. Laxing finds a pick, but he also goes down. Foxe needs to finish this off. He's going to start with the first one here. Needs to get Case down as well, as Rexen slowly begins to rotate over towards him. No emphasis on trying to get Laxing back up here. He's focused entirely on the OBJ because, unfortunately, he's out of time and needs to get that down on the ground. He'll succeed in doing it. Rexen can't lock down his exact position, but as a result of that, he's closed the gap. Rexen moves in, gives himself away by taking out Laxing. Now he needs to figure out the rotate from Foxe. Had the right read, but backed away too quickly, so that duel's going to reset itself once again. Foxe just needs to mind game this one, and he can win it out on the timer, but Rexen quickly approaching the threshold to get on top of him. There's going to be the first counter defuse attempt, sticking on it, already halfway through it. Where's the swing from Foxe? Needs to do it quickly, and he gets it just in time, shuts him out, and that's going to be a round for Oxygen.
That's a ballsy move there from Rexen as well, just to try and commit to the plant. I mean, that's not something that we see happen very often in Rainbow Six, just because you have that constant buzz going off every single time. But, I mean, you could see just how wary of the situation Fox was. He's like, okay, do I kill him? I don't know what to do. He's a mad lad. Like, I don't get it. Like, this guy's crazy, man. I don't know. But, I mean, he's still able to get it done, and that's really what matters. Foxe playing that entire situation to a T. And time again, we've seen him in these clutch moments today, and he's been able to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Tip of the cap to him for his play so far through this best of 3, as Oxygen will tie things up 2-2 on their offensive side.
Even scoreline here now. Once again, we've got an even map share as well. Both of these teams, like we've been talking about throughout the entire series, have been neck and neck the entire time. Even the leads these teams have been able to pursue have not lasted very, very long, as their opponent has been right on their tail a few rounds later here. Overtime for our third and final map is certainly in the cards with the way that these rounds are going so far. But we have 2 additional rounds to still play out here before the first half is even done. So that's well into the future before we have to worry about that.
So, John, it's currently 1:54 in the morning on the East Coast, and I only have one thing to say about that. If you're tired, just take longer blinks, okay? It's just like a mini nap. You'll be okay. You're gonna get through this, okay? Just trust me. Pop those energy drinks and get ready for this, because I mean, just look at the way these teams are playing. Rexen with the early aggressive peek out towards southeast side, or rather, excuse me, the compass spent a little bit too much there for me, but either way, out towards the ruins side of the map, and not able to get too much there, but both of these teams have been playing things to the absolute limit in the moment, right on the cusp of just being a little too aggressive, but getting away with so much on both ends. It's really up to just how these teams have been able to trade out, but right now for the Soniqs, they want to try and get some control over this series once again here. They start off on 2-0 lead, but as of right now, hasn't worked out in their favor, although they are on the defensive end right now, so more than likely decently happy, at least content with these results. Rexen now playing things out towards office, but really nothing going on just yet. OXG being very patient with this opening minute.
Rexen continuing to wait for an opportunity to commit himself to the swing as well here. Vertical going to be trying to boost that up, but oh no, it's Grixer and Rexen once again getting naughty with these aggressive plays as he moves in, finds Yaga. That's going to once again remove the Finka from the battle here. No adrenal surges to help out Oxygen as they work their way into the site, as well as those ranged revives that could potentially come in. Soniqs as well trying to change up some slight positioning. Super's going to go back to the inside of the Sunrise bar, the bar itself, and his teammate will rotate a little bit further back to hold the Cool Vibes position.
Vertical, big pickup here inside of Sunrise, has still another yet to come as it's Super, but he chooses to back off instead, and more than likely the proper call. It's a 4 versus 4 right now. Don't want to continue to dwindle the bodies low on the defensive end, especially given the timer, as well as the positioning of the Soniqs overall. And Super, I mean, he's been hitting his shots today, folks. 5 and 3. The Aim Lab sponsorship is just working out for him. I'm telling you, Kansan will take down one for himself as well. And this all of a sudden went from a 4 versus 4 to an absolute bloodbath of the Oxygen members. Laxing will finally get something done here for OXG in round 5, but it's going to be all for naught. Grixer will wrap that one up with a bow, and the Soniqs are back in the lead.
Actually, with the cheeky hold-up position there, fully revealing himself doesn't matter. As we see great performances from nearly the entire Soniqs roster coming into this series here, even from Super. I would argue this is probably one of his best series, if not best matches so far throughout the year and in quite some time, as he has a beautiful time, controlling the spray there of the pushes coming in from Pooldor and making sure that OXG do not get anywhere close to the site in that last minute or two of the round.
He's playing so very solid right now, and he's abusing that Alda to the nth degree right now as well. I mean, that's the thing that LMGs in this game are so unbelievable at, is constantly spamming those angles. And the thing about pro play is a lot of people really like to contest angles extremely quickly. I feel like that's the difference between good and great players in Siege, is how much time you can spend inside of that angle and how many shots you can get out in that very little amount of time. So a lot of people like those jiggle peeks, send a couple of shots, get that hitbox back to safety, but that's when the LMGs are actually favorable. You can just continue to spam that angle, and that's the beauty of Siege as well, man. It only takes one. If you hit them properly one time, it's all over, and that's exactly what has happened in that moment for Super. Fantastic stuff for him, as he's positive right now at 5 and 4.
The Soniqs, a lead already well established for themselves on this defensive half. Even if it goes 3-3, that's still going to be an overall victory for them at the end of the day. If they can push it up to 4-2, that'll be even better. But at the same time, these leads have been somewhat deceiving in that, once again, we've usually seen a rebound from our opposing team on the second half.
Do you just want to say it? We're going to overtime. Like, we are.
Well, now you've just cursed it, so I don't know about that anymore.
I'm sorry, East Coasters. I'm sorry, New Yorkers. You guys are a little screwed, but that's okay. I mean, it's worth the wait. It's worth staying up. It's worth just watching what is going on in between these two teams, because this, honestly, has been a hell of a series so far. Very entertaining to watch, and not only watch, but also commentate. So we're getting a little bit deeper here into round 6. Oxygen, the fairly neutral opening here, as we'd expect. They'll start working on Sunrise. We've been seeing the Soniqs operate around quite often. This time, though, it will be Yeti in this space.
Our Soniqs roster waiting at the thresholds right now, trying to see if they can
Gotta get it off the ceiling.
Opportunities for themselves as he tries to get this Nitro down to maybe redeploy it a little bit later on, but not going to be able to find such an easy path to do that, unfortunately.
He's got it. He got it back in. We're good to go. And speaking of getting it in, Grixer is going to get it in on Vertical. A headshot, nevertheless, as well. And Vertical has been shut down inside of this game so far, folks. This is round 6. Currently 1-5-3. Not something that we expect out of one of the best players out of Stage 3, but it's what we're getting right now for OXG. We want to see the team across the board be able to try and take it to the Soniqs in the moment. But Soniqs, as of right now, starting to pull ahead yet again.
Continuing to wait once again for potential opportunities and more importantly, potential swings to come out from one of the members of the Soniqs roster, but just not finding it in that department here. Kino getting no challengers upstairs against him. He's going to have to encroach on the downstairs territory if he wants an opportunity to find that. As once again, Soniqs have focused their defense almost entirely on this quadrant of the map here. X-Kyra is trying to open up a path in from barrels and should be able to do it successfully. There's too much pressure for a member like Super to try and swing out and take those downs. That is going to be a full opened up. Young as well with a great angle to punish Super for sitting in the corner right there. The top down's now established, and finally Oxygen can start making some progress in their favor here as they even it back out into a 4v4, and some good damage on the Rexon too as he's forced out of the office.
Unfortunate for the IGL there that the frag basically just lined up the stars in order to find him in behind that deployable shield, but Oxygen are going to be able to get that back either way, whether it be gifted or found, doesn't really matter. Oxygen not able to try and fight back now, though, as Grixer has actually moved his way back into the top floor, and no one very aware of it in the moment. Be able to take down one. Kino will take him down as well as Foxy's getting the plant right now inside of Kegs. Cans will be able to fight back against one, but he knows what the positioning is of Foxy, as he'll double back on the angle and be able to take him down too. It's all left up to Rexon instead of the 1 versus 2, but he's got very minimal HP up against 2 fully healthy Oxygen members. Foxy on the long angle here, as well as Kino currently working inside of the lobby space. Rexon worse for wear in the moment, as well as worse for wear on positioning, that it's now completely known to the Oxygen members. It'll be a Nitro Cell out to clear deep inside of Beer, but he's dead either way. Kino just simply lying in wait at the front desk will get it done, and Oxygen will tie things up yet again.
Yeah, the Nitro, I think, only makes the situation even worse as he kind of smokes himself off slightly, so not even get a clear picture of where the opponent is on the threshold past that barrel's wall there. So it allows for OXG to recontain the situation after once more Soniqs trying to bring out that wild style to the table with those aggressive swings, and ultimately are finally bested by OXG as they slow down the pace to be able to get control over those players, knock them out, and eventually work their way into the site. 3-3 is going to be the scoreline at halftime here. Dead tie between our two teams, which should really be no surprise at this point, given the way the series has gone. It does, however, mean that Oxygen are now on the defensive side here. They're also going to go right towards a kitchen and service defense for their opening round.
I would like to think that their anime arc is just that they're fighting so hard because they love each other so much. That's really what it is. You know, just the sheer love that Oxygen and Soniqs have for each other. They just can't let each other go that easily. It's always got to go max OT. You know, it's just always a good time whenever these two are on the docket. And today's not going to be any different. We will be switching sides now, though, obviously, as we hit that 3-3 scoreline. So Oxygen will be manning the defense, whereas Soniqs will be standing up for this offensive side. They've got a couple of different ideas going on for their offensive takes rather than what Oxygen had, most notably Yeti having the Nomad here, so they'll be able to lock up some of these stairwells up top, and that's actually going to be extremely favorable for them because Oxygen have not brought the Oryx this time around, so won't have anybody to try and operate around those hatches. Oxygen, though, will be focused on holding up this top floor, at least for the time being, around that face space, just to make it a little bit more difficult to work their way in from Hookah, but we'll have to see what else is going on around this area because that alone will not achieve this job. The Soniqs will more than likely have an answer to that once they've scouted it out.
Foxy looking out. Maybe get an early contestation against the push, working its way up the Hookah stairwell, but definitely not going to lead towards it. Only one panel opened up there, and the player's just doing it, I think, for sound propagation anyways, that if Foxy did try to lurk upon it, it'd be a little easier to hear and possibly catch if you have someone else watching out for that. Either way, Foxy creeps himself forward here and is going to keep an easy watch on the area just in case one of the members of the Soniqs would try to sneak in, but it's not looking like it's going to be the case. The rest of the team here working on entering the building through the normal means, most notably that hatch just above the master bathroom, and we'll start clearing things out from there.
Some Womai discs in the area. They try to burn, but the flashes actually work their way through, attempting to get a grenade onto that vase position and just make it a lot more difficult for Yaga to try and work around that. So he'll bail, as you would indeed expect. But either way, Oxygen doing a pretty bang-up job of delaying things right now as we're about halfway through this round. But given that it is Coastline, anything can happen on a moment's notice. You got quick access to the site as well as very minimal space overall through this entire map. It's quite congested once you're actually inside the building rather than being out towards the courtyard. So to see what they can possibly do here. But as of right now, this has been pretty dastardly. Soniqs not really able to get a read on the situation overall as Oxygen continues to keep everyone up and alive, and Kansan missing out on an extremely important opportunity. He'll lose out to Vertical on the vertical angle.
Vertical continuing to play into this angle and now finding a new target, but maybe a little bit more than he's asking for here.
You see him look at the ground? That's some Halo stuff right there, man.
Ducks and dives his way out of there as he tries to hide his head as much as possible. Super, however, will find another entry frag for the team, and he's just going to entry himself into the site in the meanwhile. No support on it, so he gets traded out. I think he was expecting Grixer to be in a better position a little bit earlier on there as he does get at least one cut off.
Wow.
Yeti with a beautiful shot against Vertical as he knocks him out of the play, and that leaves it down into a 3v2 here. Yeti, Grixer, and Rexen now up against just Foxe with Grixer's most recent kill against Yogg. Just needing to find out Foxe, and they've kind of already done it with that drone as well as a nice bullet connecting right through his torso to bring him down to only a sliver of HP. He returns a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. Too much pressure against him. Rexen finishes things off, and the Soniqs take the round.
A team play from the Soniqs there. The case not getting down, so a bit of an oversight on the positioning as to where Oxygens were in relation to the Soniqs, but they're still able to get it done. They do not overswing and lose too many bodies in that situation. To be honest, it's really only Super that they lose to him trying to put the case down at all. So for the Soniqs, very well handled. They knew Oxygen was going to more than likely try and double back to handle Super, and if anything, that was more of a bait. They try and come back in, and there's just too many Soniqs members around the space, and they just start taking out Oxygen members while they're trying to deal with that situation. So very well done from the Soniqs to battle back, especially after Vertical got that nice pick through the floorboards.
So as this comes down to the wire here in the final 5 rounds of play, need to wait and see if the Soniqs will be able to continue to find success at the same degree as we saw in the last round, or if there'll be a continuous process of Oxygen evolving, as we already saw back in the first half for them on the attacking side here. Obviously some missteps once again in trying to play out in the aggression against the Soniqs, who kind of been the kings of that so far in this series here, though Oxygen said a few fights at the title themselves. They're going to try and slow down that play as much as possible here. Most notably with Foxe bringing the Legion into the picture. Those goo mines hopefully tripping up some of those sneakier plays that Soniqs may try to go for, especially as they start to creep in towards areas like Kitchen. If they try to work their way down Cool Vibes, or even as they try to push their way in through the pool door or up through Office into the blue bar. That can be slowed down with those goo mines in addition to the other forms of utility that's being brought by Yaga and of course Kino.
Yeah, a literal thorn in your side is Legion time and time again. Definitely one of the most annoying operators in Rainbow Six. You're primed and ready to go, and then all of a sudden you step on one of those goo mines, and you're really not going anymore. So we'll see what the Soniqs can possibly do with that, but we should be seeing them open towards more of a top floor take, simply because these air jobs are just so solid for gathering control up top, especially once you clear out those Oxygen members. You can just lock up the stairwells and make things very easy for your sledge to work the entirety of the floor. So we have Foxe up here to try and slow some of this take down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Soniqs are going to have to go with that. The air jabs are always serviceable, really in any space that you want to put them, as long as you're ready to work that cutoff. So minute already off the board here as the Soniqs are already getting some space open towards Sunrise, possibly looking for a plant here later on.
Y'all continuing to in through the angle he has on the inside of security there, cutting off anybody who might be trying to work their way through it, but no success found for either team. Both squads still a full HP for all 10 players here, so no one able to connect on anything just as of yet. Only a minute gone from the round here, but the Soniqs already opening up quite a bit surrounding, specifically the Sunrise bar. Not nearly enough to where they'll be able to contend with an actual push here, but Grixer going to get the first fight here as he tries to take down a player over towards the big window, but ultimately will not be able to find much from it. That player ducks the heck out of that fight as quickly as possible. Rexen, though, a little bit different, but Laxing ready for the challenge. He's got the M590 primed and ready to go, and a new challenger approaches. Kansan also tries to test Laxing in the corner and fails as Laxing gets a second.
Laxing so patient here and behind the shelves for Kitchen. Air jab down, and now know where he is, but the thing is that the Sonics seriously need to handle this situation. Nitro sell out, and is it going to get him the kill? Yeti, he's too patient and laxing with a triple kill at a moment where Oxygen desperately needed him to come back to light, and he's done so. Super will finally be able to dust him, but he's already dealt so much damage. It's a 4 versus 2 in favor of OXG.
Grix are now the only one left standing aside from Super here, so still trying to work the 2v4. The good news is they do still have a decent amount of time left in the bank. Not amazing, but certainly workable if they can potentially sneak their way into Blue Bar and have proper coverage onto the plant. That's going to be the problem, though, is providing the proper coverage at 2v4 due to the amount of cutoffs that members of Oxygen can very quickly establish should they try to go for it. You can see it once again being deployed right over here on the side as they get ready to hop in, although it's not going to come in the area you expect. They're going right back into Sunrise to try and directly contest the hold in here.
Oh,
Kano
beautiful.
Immediately shutting down Grixer. Perfect timing for him, and Super, with no real capability to work himself in here, is going to try for it, but it goes the way you would expect, with a quick shutdown coming in for Oxygen as they trade the round out, bring us to a 4-4 scoreline, and keep these teams deadlocked.
Oxygen keeping this teeter-totter going, tied things up at 4-4 for the moment. As Soniqs just not able to get into the building in a convincing fashion, especially over towards the kitchen area. They're able to walk in from service, but that's really about it. We don't see a true control of that top floor, any abuse of the vertical angles at all. And, you know, really for the Soniqs, that's more than likely just the better option in that area, is just start to try and bear down onto those players on site. But, you know, that doesn't mean that the kitchen take can't work out. It's a very common thing to have someone in that area that Laxing's playing as well, so they're more than likely ready for that. But I mean, sometimes that M590, I'm telling you, if you just sit down and you pray at night to the M590 gods, that thing will gift you kills. We have seen time and time again throughout the years of Rainbow Six this thing get people out of terrible situations, and it does it there for Laxing yet again.
So, with the score being as close as it is here, Soniqs need to find a new way to breach past the setups that OXG have been deploying here, as once again, the aggression coming out from them is just as potent as what we've seen from the Soniqs inside of their own defensive half, and it's making for a very tough time for the Soniqs, as we just saw in that previous one. A new site, though, means new opportunities as well for our attackers, most notably over here towards the theater now. We're going to play into this site for the very first time. The Soniqs chose outright not to play into the site throughout their defensive half. Oxygen clearly not favoring, or clearly favoring it, rather, a little bit more here, as they're going to play into it quite heftily, and we'll see if this will work out for them.
You know, I'll have to say, I'm a penthouse enjoyer, most definitely. I think that this site has some unique things about it, especially for a siege site, you know, especially with the way that it used to be played. It's played completely differently nowadays, and just, you know, that honestly is a huge thing for the devs and the way that they've changed up this map, because it's made Penthouse a lot more serviceable, especially with Mira off the board. You know, you have people playing around VIP, the room's been made bigger, there's a couple of other safe havens to play around in that space, so you're not always immediately getting contested, as well as the walls being changed in there, actually 2 walls away from the window, so that used to be in that space. So it just makes that area a heck of a lot easier for the defense to actually occupy, and that's what we're going to have in this. Yago will be working that area, as well as the shield that everyone's used to being inside of 90 hallway for OXG.
He's going to put himself on the big window to try and get some of those air jabs in position to deny the rotates from OXG further out. They've got the position of the deployable shield here. The Koyo shield being put there so that they will have to deal with that later on in the round. Going to be quickly mating that out of position, though, and dealing with that. So the extra support will now be gone, and actually not taking out that specific shield just yet, but I did hear another one blow up a second ago. This is actually going to be a normal one, I do believe, at the end of the day.
Oxygen still with these insanely long angles. Worked in through VIP. Soniqs have not applied pressure towards the hookah side just yet. So trying to bear down on these windows and see if they can get anybody to just simply cross and give them a frag, but it's just not coming in the moment. Down to almost a minute here for the Soniqs, and they need to get something done. Oxygen just completely spread across the map in the moment. Really nothing in control of the Soniqs in this area. at least for right now, have Guitar and yet another one coming in down low, but Vertical's in this space. He'll remove the head of Yeti. More than likely try to challenge out towards the window just to see if anybody's around double. Foxy will get down to Super's trying to push forward. Currently at 7-7, make it 7-8. And oh no, it's actually 8-7. You thought Kino would be able to do something there, but Super, he's just been insane today. 9-8 currently. He's got the most frags on the team. What else could you want from this IGL? Kansan can get one. It's all down to Vertical, the best player from Oxygen in stage 3, to try and clutch up this round.
Vertical gonna work his way up here, and a nice headshot to be found against Grixer, taking him down. It's Kansan versus Vert now for the title on this round, and Kansan is not gonna waste any time. Not that he really has much to waste at this point. Needs to get this case down on the ground. He's gonna be able to complete it, but he needs to get the coverage pretty much immediately, as Vertical is already here. Looking to take the fight, but Kansan, he wins it out instead, as once more, the Soniqs will come out on top. The Seesaw is alive and well, as once more another round is picked up here from the Soniqs as they push ahead, only by one round though, at 5-4.
Frustration on the face of Vertical in that moment. Oxygen let Soniqs get away with way too much there, especially allowing Super to work his way all the way up to the walls of Theater. That smoke goes down. There's really no way that they want to properly contest that. But defensive end, if you allow map control to start being taken from the offense, that round's basically done. There's really nothing that you can do, especially when they have the crosses established. It just becomes such a volatile thing for the defense. So for Oxygen in that one, not really much they can do past those 2 kills that go into the favor of the Soniqs, and that's why we see them take it in such convincing fashion. Now for the Soniqs, they're right on the door of 6 rounds. 2 rounds away from taking this inside of regulation, which would be the very first in between these two today.
Again in the driver's seat, but can they keep it that way? These attacks have been so brutal here, and once again so surgical usually in how they try to find those first few picks. We've been seeing that play throughout the previous 2 maps as well here. You can see how close it's been even with that though. Oxygen almost always finding a way to rebound in the final moments of these maps. Did it twice in a row where they come back in the second half on both our initial map on Oregon as well as the second one on Clubhouse, and now looking to keep the scoreline even all the way up to another potential 6-6 tied scoreline if we end up in OT again here. This will be the round that OXG need to take for themselves. It's going to be downstairs in the kitchen service hall, where there's already been quite a bit of success for Oxygen earlier on in this half.
They have to use every single round so far to figure out who the victors are on our maps, and this map is starting to build up to a very similar story. The Soniqs currently sit at 5-4, but you guys already knew that. Need to try and get the ball rolling here on the offense yet again. It's going to be down to the same game plan, trying to clear things out and see what kind of informational base they can possibly take here. Some very interesting barbed wire placements inside of this space. Possibly get rid of a couple of drones here, but past that, not much more that it's going to do. Does deal a little bit of damage, actually, fun fact, if you do end up walking through it, but I could count on just my 2 hands the amount of times that I've seen electrified barbed wire be useful. So we'll see how it actually ends up working out for Oxygen here. Could be some underlying things that could be quite favorable for them, but that's definitely not going to be one of them. Foxy gets taken down as so many hot pings come through the building off of a pretty solid drone placement.
And the bait from the drone works out too, somewhat gets him into the open, at least gets him to stand up and take the challenge on that one, ultimately leading to his death there. And the Soniqs once again continuing to be in commanding position here as we get to the second half of the round. Minute and 30 remaining here for the Soniqs to get onto the site downstairs and take control of this map for themselves, or of course wipe out the remaining presence from OXG, which might just become the goal here, as we've seen happen throughout a large majority of our rounds here. Vertical, though, sits at the bottom of the main stairs, very much waiting for that transition to start for the Soniqs here and hoping to catch 1 or 2 players before he might get traded out.
Back in the day when it hit the splash screen to load your map, it used to say bomb-TDM. But for them right now, it's just kind of just TDM. That's really it. And for all of us that play this game regularly, we all know that's what Coastline is. This is just a pure hell in a cell with so many angles to abuse. And if you're someone like Yeti, you probably know what you're doing. That's going to be 2 frags in through the courtyard that Oxygen were simply not prepared for. He mans the window, but that's all he needs. Kino will be able to get 1 for his troubles, and trust me, it's a lot of trouble. Down to 10 HP currently currently, as he's the only one inside of sight. Laxing still trying to work the lobby space, but is he the one being worked instead? It is. Yeti will get that. Kansas will clean it up. Talk your stuff, boys. The Soniqs are looking beautiful right now.
The seesaw has finally broken, and one standing at the top of it is going to be the Soniqs. They'll take the lead here, pushing themselves up to a 6-4 lead. Now it's all up to the Oxygen roster, needing 2 rounds in a row here in order to bring this back and trigger a 3rd consecutive overtime to still have an opportunity to close out this series and go to the grand finals. If not, if any of the next 2 rounds are picked up by the Soniqs, we'll have them facing off against Dark Zero in our grand final to start the day off tomorrow.
Man, I love this manga. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better the more I read, John, let me tell you. But for the Soniqs right now, you have got to be excited for them. I don't care if you hate them. I don't care if you love them. This team is playing so fantastic. And not only that, Super, I think at least, still has the most frags on the entire team. And yes, he does indeed. Yeti only has 7 in the moment, even though he popped off inside of that last round. Super's currently sitting at 9-8-1. He's tied for the most frags in the game with Kino.
Very, very impressive stuff.
That's something we never see from Super. John, there was a time, probably, what was it, 6-8 months ago, when we were just like, oh yeah, Super 007, man, funny memes. Yeah, meme. 9-8-1 when it matters, and that's what you love to see. You love to see it.
Great stuff from Super is once again an interesting point for Super here. There's been a lot of talk about what's potentially going to happen with him going into the 2022 season.
Yeah.
If this is once again going to be his last showing at the NAL, should the worst happen, not implying anything, there's been talk.
He's been playing the game a long time, boys and girls. Like, I mean, this guy played Rainbow Six before it was Rainbow Six Siege. Think about that one for a second. Do you guys even know what Raven Arrow is? Do you have any idea? Did you play any of the Vegas games? How old are you guys at home? I mean, like, come on. Super's been around for a very long time.
I think to be fair, again, just to top off what I was saying before anybody panics.
Oh, you're good.
I think he's going to be around for a very, very long time. It's just in what capacity we'll continue to see him be around. So.
You know, and it's really that. I mean, to be honest, for me, in the moment, just seeing how this game's playing out right now, you know, I don't think that there really is an argument to have him off the team, you know, and even moving into like a coaching capacity or something like that. I think that he's definitely still bringing things to the table that are paramount to Sonic's success, and not having his voice, you know, actually in the game, able to make adjustments like that. I mean, it's going to be so difficult. And to be honest with you guys, IGLs are not a dime a dozen. It's very hard to find a true solid IGL in Rainbow Six Siege just because that position is so unbelievably difficult.
Certainly, once again here, it's even more difficult to find one with the amount of experience that Super has.
Right?
The only one you could really compare to that would be someone like Canadian, but we're passing by all this action here as Corrixer and Cans and get things started hot here. 2 kills in their favor. No trades coming back here. Kansan as well, finding Laxing, working his way up the cool vibe. That's it!
What?
They walked their way right through the final round. The Soniqs are going to the final to face off against Dark Zero to be the NAL 2021 champion.
Well, that does it. The Soniqs push all the way to the final in extremely convincing fashion in those last 3 rounds.